Hi, and welcome to Between Dimensions. I'm Monica Gonzalez, an astrologer and spiritual healer. And today we're going to talk about what is happening in the skies right now. We have a full moon. We had Neptune enter Aries back in March, which I think I briefly touched on, but I'm going to go over it again. We have Pluto in retrograde and Saturn entering Aries come May 24th at 11:36 p.m. So a lot of Aries energy, retrograde energy. So let's go ahead and dive deep.
Beyond what we see, beyond what we know, there is a space where the physical and the metaphysical meet. Welcome to Between Dimensions, where we bridge the gap between 3D and 5D, the seen and the unseen, the logical and the mystical. From astrology to energy healing, from past lives to cosmic connections, together we explore the mysteries of existence with curiosity, wisdom, and an open mind.
I want to begin this video by comparing Eastern Vedic sidereal astrology to Western astrology. As I mentioned in past videos, there are two systems. Western astrology, which is more based on the seasons, versus Eastern astrology, which takes into account the precession of the Earth. Therefore, the placements of the celestial objects are more accurate to their positions in the sky. But there is a place for Western astrology, so I want to bring up both right now so we can see where the stars, where the celestial objects are in the sky right now for us to review, and then we can compare the two and see which one resonates with us better. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And now we should have in front of us both the tropical astrological chart for where the celestial objects are right now versus the Eastern sidereal star chart. So you can see on the top left corner, it's where the stars are placed at May 14th, 2025 at 10:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And this is where you can see the system being used. It's tropical geocentric. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have the same date, May 14th, 2025 at 10:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, but here you can see it is sidereal. And so let's compare the two. You can see right off the bat, Mars in our first house in Western astrology is in Leo versus Mars in Cancer in sidereal. So if you were to look at a star app, you'll see that the Mars planet is aligned with the Cancer constellation. But let's see which one resonates with you more on a personal level. Mars isn't considered an inner planet, so it more affects the individual versus the global community. If you're feeling right now this very bold, courageous, forward, direct energy, you might be resonating more with Mars in Leo because Mars is the god of war. It is bold, courageous, energetic energy. And Leo is the lion, very proud, a bit egocentric, definitely the life of the party. They do not mind the spotlight on them. So if you're doing bold actions at this moment, you're doing it from a place of being front and center. You are doing it outwardly so that people can see you. And you might be feeling this energy in a very upfront manner. If you resonate more with Eastern astrology, you might be feeling the exact opposite because in Eastern astrology or sidereal, we have Mars in Cancer. Mars, still god of war, still that same fiery energy, but it's in Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's soft, it's feminine, it's flowing, it's nurturing, it's the caretaker. So two very opposite energies here. The Leo constellation is ruled by the sun versus Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. So if your boldness is coming more from a feminine side, more of a nurturing aspect, then you might be resonating more with your Eastern astrology, Vedic sidereal astrology. Let's keep going through the chart. We have South Node, both in Western and Eastern astrology in Virgo, but we see a difference within these moons. We have the moon in Sagittarius in tropical Western astrology, or the moon in Scorpio. And here's where I lean a little bit more towards the eastern side. We have a full moon, and it is currently within the constellation of Scorpio. If you were to look up a sky app, you'll see this alignment. Um, so if you're feeling more Western astrology, then you'll notice that you are processing your emotional and mental um, thoughts from a perspective of Sagittarius energy, which is more philosophical. So you'll be looking at your emotions more from a standpoint of the global community, um, maybe thinking about it more ethically and what is happening more ethically. And with the full moon that we're going through right now, it is amplifying these thoughts, it's amplifying these emotions. I actually had a complete ethical, not debate, but conversation with my mom yesterday. So I definitely see that she's feeling this Western alignment of moon in Sagittarius. Now, if you are feeling moon and Scorpio energy being a little bit mysterious, being a little bit intense, being more emotionally driven, you are coming to your emotions and thoughts from a perspective of passion, intensity, um, maybe a little bit more dramatic, definitely a little bit more emotional, but emotional in a private way, not in an outward way. So here you could be feeling, if you are sitting at home, feeling all your feelings and not wanting to share them with the world, not analyzing them, but just allowing yourself to feel them in the comfort and privacy of your own bedroom or your own home, then you're definitely resonating more on the Eastern side. And here we have Pluto on Western astrology in Aquarius, in Eastern astrology still in Capricorn. So, but both of these Plutos, despite which perspective you look at it from, is in retrograde. Pluto is the planet of transformation. With it in retrograde, it is asking us to turn inward and internalize what this transformation looks like for us. Pluto is also the planet of power and patterns. So when it's in retrograde, it's asking us to self-reflect on our patterns. How are the power dynamics manifesting in your life right now? And let me tell you, I have been feeling this energy on all levels. I had to terminate a contract I had with a client due to this energy right here, because this is now through my self-reflection, I recognize I was giving way too much of my power to another person and I needed to take it back in. I had difficult conversations where my patience was really tried with this person, with this individual, and I continuously allowed them to take my power where they treated me in such a way that I felt not valued, where I felt not heard or respected, considering that I gave them 2 to 3 times of changing their behavior, and they still weren't able to do it. I noticed the call astrologically for me to take back my power. So maybe that's what you're going through right now. Maybe you're also feeling this Pluto in retrograde, where you need to call back in your power, where you need to feel more centered and grounded in who you are as you're transforming through life. We have North Node in Pisces for both Western and Eastern astrology. We have Saturn in Pisces for both Western and Eastern astrology for now. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Saturn will be transiting into Aries on May 24th in the evening, according to Western astrology. And since that's an upcoming transit, I'll discuss that at the end of this video, so stay tuned to learn what this transit means for us. Continuing, we have Neptune in Aries in Western astrology and Neptune in Pisces in Eastern astrology. Neptune's the planet of all things spiritual, the subconscious, empathy, and intuition. Neptune also rules the constellation Pisces, so it's very much at home in Eastern astrology. This energy represents an energy of being called to expand on your spiritual practices. It's a call for global consciousness rising into more spiritual matters, possibly seeing a lot more people awaken and become more aware. This is very different energy than Neptune and Aries. Neptune in Aries energy is about putting your spiritual beliefs forward into the public eye, being courageous and brave to discuss the esoteric, to discuss the subconscious. And I find it interesting that this energy, which began, according to Western astrology, on March 30th, also seems to coincide with the anointment of a new pope in the Catholic Church. I also find it interesting that that pope chose the name Pope Leo. Leo, the same Leo as in the Mars in the Leo constellation, Mars being the ruling planet of Aries. So you kind of see all of these connections on how the universe has planned itself out. And I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that the Pope is Pope Leo is intriguing to me. He also seems to be someone who is outspoken and who will be more outspoken about his spiritual beliefs through his reign. Neptune is in a constellation for 14 years, so we'll be with this energy for the next 14 years. It takes 165 years to orbit the sun. So the last time Neptune was in Aries was 165 years ago, which was the year 1861. And if you are a history buff, you would know that 1861 coincides with the year that the American Civil War started. So this energy is all about fighting for what you believe in, fighting for the greater good, fighting for what you stand for. So we'll see a little bit more of this combative, aggressive, assertive energy, particularly through a spiritual lens over the next 14 years. We've already seen a bit of a dispute between Israel and Gaza and how this energy is impacting that part of the world. And I would expect that this would continue for the next 14 years. Just unfortunately, there will be continued disagreements between philosophical and religious ideologies. We have Venus in Aries in Western astrology and Venus in Pisces in Eastern astrology. Venus, being an inner planet, more impacts an individual, not the global consciousness, not like Neptune. So Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, art, materialism. with Venus in Aries, this is a really auspicious time to meet the love of your life because people are going to feel more emboldened to share their love for another person. They won't be afraid to declare their love. So expect to either meet someone at this time where you just kind of vibe together really easily and quickly. Also, if you're in a relationship and you're looking to take that next step, this is a really great time to do so. Perhaps if you are um, just dating, you'll want to turn your relationship into a long-term commitment, or if you're in a committed relationship, possibly look into marriage. This is different than Venus and Pisces energy. Venus and Pisces is all about cultivating a love for yourself, for higher consciousness, for the divine, bringing in a love of nature. So, this energy is not so much romantic love versus spiritual love. And Venus in Aries energy is very much romantic, passionate, intense love. We have Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries. For both Western and Eastern astrology, we have Mercury in Taurus, according to Western astrology, and Mercury in Aries, according to Eastern astrology. Mercury is the planet of communication. So here is another place where we see expressions of love because Mercury is communication and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So expect again more conversations coming from the heart, sharing emotions, being more heart-centric. If you vibe with more of your Western astrological tendencies, if you feel or resonate more in terms of Eastern astrology, then you'll notice that your communication style is going to be different. Your communication style, rather than coming from the heart, is going to be more from this fiery, intense place where you'll be more direct and verbal with your belief system. You'll be setting boundaries, being assertive, or possibly even being aggressive in your communication style. We have Sun, which represents the self in Taurus in Western astrology, and we have the Sun in Aries in Eastern astrology. So here you'll see or feel a perspective of yourself that is more aligned with love and the heart if you're coming from a Western astrological approach versus feeling more like a warrior in Eastern astrology. So right now, if you feel more combative, more fiery in terms of your energy, it could be that you align more with Eastern astrology or you resonate with those vibes more. But then again, we have, whether or not you look at this from a Western or an Eastern ideological standpoint, you see that a lot of the energies are the same. There's a lot of fire, but there's also a lot of heart here. So overall, you're going to be noticing more fire within your daily life, more fire in the general world, in the external world. And fire translates into aggression, into boldness, into directness. We have Uranus in Taurus for both Western and Eastern astrology. And then finally, we have Jupiter in Gemini, according to Western astrology, and Jupiter in Taurus for Eastern astrology. Jupiter is considered an inner planet, so here it's impacting the individual, particularly if you are a Gemini or a Taurus. So if you're a Gemini, you will find that this is a more fortunate aspect for you. Perhaps you are seeing career growth. Perhaps you have met the love of your life and you're feeling this emotional growth and abundance. Jupiter is the planet of luck, growth, abundance, and fortune. So, if you are a Gemini and that is how you're feeling, you probably resonate more with Western astrology. But if you're a Taurus and you're feeling really fortunate right now, then you might vibe with this Eastern astrology. It's, being that currently the Jupiter is in the constellation Taurus in this material world, in our skies right now, I do think that it could be very auspicious for any Tauruses out there. I'm a Taurus, my niece is a Taurus, so I don't know. Maybe I like to look at it from that more biased perspective. Now, let's get into this upcoming Saturn transit. I want to end this video talking about Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. If you look at it from a Western astrology or an Eastern astrology perspective, Saturn is the planet of structure, discipline, the sciences, technology, time, maturation, the father figure, and authoritative figures. With Saturn in Pisces, we see an authoritative energy take place, specifically in spiritual beliefs. So this can be representative of the newly appointed Pope that just took his place as the leader or the new leader of the Catholic Church. We'll also see people tend to return to more conservative traditional views when it comes to their spiritual lives. However, if you're looking at the stars from an Eastern perspective, Saturn is going to stay in Pisces for the next 2.5 years. If you're looking at it from a Western perspective, Saturn will be entering Aries May 24th in 10 days in the evening. And that has or infuses the global consciousness with more fiery energy. I'm going to stop my share because I'm not sure if you guys are feeling it, but I have been feeling this Saturn in Aries transit now for at least a week. I'm feeling more energetic on a day-to-day. I'm feeling more goal-oriented and productive. I'm also feeling more assertive and able to establish boundaries. But I'm also feeling a little bit combative and aggressive in nature. So if you are also feeling these energies, let me know. I'd love to hear more about it. Talking a little bit more about Saturn and Saturn in Aries. The last time Saturn was in Aries was 30 years ago. It takes Saturn 30 years to transit the sun, to orbit the sun. So Saturn was in Aries back in 1996 to 1998, which perfectly aligns with the beginning of the dot-com bubble, or the dot-com explosion, rather. Being that Saturn is all about structure and discipline, it is closely associated with the sciences and technology in particular. Think about binary code, zeros and ones, and the structure that creates. So it's not surprising that this Saturn and Aries energy created the dot-com boom. At the same time, in pop culture, we had the rise of alternative music. Alternative music was the rebellion of the youth rebelling against authoritative figures. Again, very much this Saturn in Aries energy. If we go another 30 years back, we're looking at the civil rights movement. We're looking at the end of the Vietnam War era. We're looking at a bunch of assassination attempts, all coinciding with the Saturn in Aries placement. So what can we expect? What can we expect to see over the next 2.5 years? Because this is why I look at astrology. You can look in the past, see what global events happened at the same time that these transits were happening, and kind of prepare yourself for what's going to happen next. So expect a rise in youth-led movements. Expect a rise in a rebellious a rebellion towards authority. And I think we're seeing some of this already. I think we're seeing a lot of people become more vocal and courageous in defying authoritative figures. Expect possible assassination attempts. Expect, as I mentioned, with the Neptune in Aries energy, possible further disagreements, disputes, wars when it comes to spiritual matters. So, this is a crazy time period for all of us, especially with all of this fiery Aries energy. Prepare yourself because you may be experiencing this fiery energy in one or two ways. It could be motivating you to um, achieve your goals, but it could also be creating a bit of anxiety, a little bit of anger. So recognize when these energies pop up and prepare yourself to know how you want to react when they do. So, when I was feeling very emotionally frustrated this past week, I took the time to just disconnect from the world. I spoke to my mom, I spoke to my dad, I gained perspective. I spoke to my girlfriend Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Um, to really dive in deep into why I was feeling the things I was feeling because these emotions wave over you to grow and learn from in order to move towards your soul's destiny, which is usually to continue in a space of higher vibration energy, not sinking down into those toxic energies, but rather giving the space to purge those toxic energies in order to rise above and fill your mindset with abundance, with love, with care for your global community. So, with that, I'm going to end this video. Just also, one quick note before we go. Saturn will go retrograde come July 13th, which could see a level up in terms of technology. So we might see some sort of technological breakthrough in AI or other innovations at that time. We'll also see, it's also a wonderful time. Saturn retrograde is a great time to recognize patterns within yourself, to learn and grow from. We might see a level up in our own maturation. So, a lot of things going on, very exciting times. I hope you are all feeling great. I'm going to finish my chakra series with the heart chakra, so stay tuned for that and wish you all guys the best. Bye.